The senior athlete has something to teach us, and I want to learn what it is.
She has a clear view of the goal, and the goal is to win.
Claire is a machine.
She's the one that we all try to beat.
She may do shots that you might get a little frustrated by. For instance, she's amazing at that freaking drop shot.
She's gone to, tournaments on different continents and say, oh, you're the one with that drop shot, because her reputation precedes her.
Unlike some of the older women who stand in one place and just hit a ball, Claire doesn't do that. Claire moves all over the court.
To look at her, you would think, she's not going to make this shot. She's not going to be able to do this. And she always makes the shot.
I think she's just a great athlete.
This is Claire Zoller of Santa Fe, New Mexico. This nationally and internationally ranked woman didn't take up the sport of tennis until she was in her 40s. This is me. Believe it or not, I was never a professional athlete. I'm just somebody who wants to see how good I can get at tennis. I personally have found Claire's lob to be a bit of a challenge.
I've been playing tennis for about 20 years, probably since I was about 4 years old. I get out there the first morning of my singles round and I saw that I was up against Claire. And I was actually nervous because I've heard many, many stories about Claire, and she's a legend.
She's got muscles, and she hits the ball beautifully. I mean, she has a shot that, you can hardly watch it. It's so fast. It's just beautiful.
And I knew that she had trick shots.
She's young and really a strong young woman.
So I played her in my first round and lost pretty badly, actually. She killed me.
She's a few years younger, maybe 50. Maybe 52.
Made me humble that realized that she can still play some great tennis, no matter how old she is and how young I am.
What was your technique to beat her?
Basically, I just tried to get the ball back.
She's smart. She doesn't try to overhit it. She will place the ball strategically. Tennis, I think, is 90% mental, so she's got it.
One of the things I like about playing tennis competitively is playing my own game at a high level of itself.
She did beat the number 5 player in the world in her age group on the grass courts.
A lot of the people that I play against, at least in tournaments in the United States, many of them have even taught tennis. So I'm definitely not in the same league. I'm just kind of a scrambler.
Does she try to get into your head when you play her?
Oh, she's famous for that.
I mean, I really don't try to get into people's heads.
I think she does, but maybe not like so intentionally verbally.
What does she do?
Line calls.
Yeah, she questioned your line call. Are you sure?
You might know that she's going to hit this slice shot off the side of the court and you anticipate it, but you still can't get to it because she just places it so perfectly, and that breaks you down. Even though you know it's coming, it still frustrates you, and then she gets in your head.
If I'm playing against someone who's significantly younger, I might ask them their birthday.
She almost got me to the point of crying. And it was, basically I wasn't having a good day on the court, and she got into my head.
Her legend preceded her, but I still decided to take her on.
She also almost brought me to tears.
I think it was during the summer.
Yes, and
Yes,
again, I
Mindy.
wasn't.
Yes, Mindy.
She drop shotted me shot after shot. No matter what I did, it would just come back over the net, and I just hated it.
I think I didn't play with her for probably a couple of months.
I looked at her and I said, I bet you have a hard time finding people to play with. And I meant it. You know, it was like, I will never play you again. I earned the right. I think it was a trial by fire with Claire.
You know, if I want to have a game and they don't want to play me because of my drop shot, it does make me feel a little bad. But on the other hand, if it's someone that I have to compete against and they don't want to play me because of my drop shot, then it makes me feel good.
She's not going to sit back there and hit you good, solid, deep, driving, heavy balls if that's what you like. If that's what you like, she's going to give you everything but that, because that's the way to get to the very clear goal that she sees in front of her, the win.
I was playing a lady who happened to mention to me, as we were playing, my competitor told me that she was going to have a hip replacement. I hope she wasn't telling me that in hopes that I would stop drop shotting her, because I certainly did not. I mean, this was my competitor. I was playing against her. This was one of the first tournaments I played in the Nationals, in the 60 hard courts. And I continued to drop shot her. What could happen? You start feeling sorry for this person? You think, oh, poor thing, she's not going to be able to get to my drop shots. I won't hit it to her. I'll hit her the shots that she likes. No. You don't have sympathy when you're playing against somebody competitively.
I once played Claire outside during the summer, and she literally fainted on the court, but she wouldn't, you know, when we stopped and we took her into the clubhouse and laid her down and gave her water, but until she fell, she was going to keep on running. I mean, it's just an indomitable machine.
So she and her husband have a competitive relationship, do you think?
I think I think it's part of what they share and like about each other. I think it's a positive.
How'd you guys meet?
We met playing tennis in Central Park in New York.
So when she had to quit for a while when she had her surgery, what do you think that was like for her? She had her foot surgery.
No, better question. What was it like for Richard?
She became aware she had this bone spur on her heel.
At the insertion of the Achilles tendon, and it had been pulling on the tendon and causing it to have some tears, and it was very painful.
It was really interfering with her playing tennis, but she was, at least from my perspective, afraid of having any surgery.
I tried everything.
And it just kept getting worse and worse.
The thought of not being able to play tennis, I mean, this is what I do. I play tennis.
It reached a point where she couldn't really compete.
Finally, the doctors told me that unless I had an operation, I would have to essentially stop playing tennis. I would not be able to play on a hard court, and I certainly wouldn't be able to play singles.
Were you concerned that she wasn't going to be able to play again?
Well, I was concerned, but at the point at which she chose to have the operation, she really wasn't playing very much, and she wasn't getting any joy out of it.
So what was it like to not be able to play for a while?
It felt awful.
Most people, when they've had foot surgery, when they're 75, don't continue being athletes.
Well, Claire has this kind of, well, doggedness, competitiveness. You know, she's going until it's over. You know, that's just who she is.
I don't really feel well if I'm not able to play tennis. It's the way it is. I've basically turned into a tennis junkie.
What do you think that drives Claire to be a national or international champion? What is her drive?
She's a New Yorker. She grew up in the city. She played in Central Park. Only the fittest survive.
She was a ping pong champion
That's
in New
right,
York.
a ping pong champion.
There are these ping pong sort of dive clubs in New York, and Claire was taught to play ping pong by some, serious ping pong hustlers.
When Claire was in her 30s, married and the mother of 2 children, working part-time, she stumbled into a ping pong club on the Upper West Side. She was approached by a man, and he told her that he could turn her into a real player. He said if his lessons weren't any good, then she didn't have to pay him. These hustlers would say, "See that girl over there? Do you think you can beat her?" And they would bet. I asked Claire if she ever got a cut of their winnings. She said she didn't. But at least she wasn't charged to play. She worked as a computer programmer for different companies and played league ping pong. She started playing tennis when someone at work asked her to sign up for a tennis lesson to fill in for someone who had dropped out. What do you know about her childhood?
I would call her childhood traumatic.
Really?
You know, it created a survivor, and she's a great example of that.
Claire's mother and father divorced before Claire was born. Her mother received a monthly allowance from a trust fund set up by Claire's grandfather before he passed away. Her mother was a non-medicated schizophrenic with an impulse to travel on a whim. She would get a feeling that she needed to go somewhere, and she just went, sometimes with Claire and her older brother, and sometimes without them. In 1939, World War II was just starting when Claire's mother decided to go to France and take Claire's brother with her. They were Jewish and were heading to Europe when all the other Jews were fleeing. Claire's mother just felt she had to go there. She had a feeling that it was all going to be all right. She was mistaken. After Claire's mother and brother got settled in Paris, she sent for Claire and Claire's nanny. The nanny arrived in France with Claire and then took off with all their money. During this time in France, there were air raids. Claire and her brother begged their mother to take them back to New York, but she didn't want to go. She wanted to go to Holland, to become a Sufi, to see friends, and apparently get closer to the war. After pleading with her, she finally agreed. Claire was 6 and her brother was almost 8. When the 3 of them were all loaded up with their luggage and boarding a ship to go back to the United States, Claire's mother had a thought. She said, "Children, you go. I'm staying." Together the kids asked over and over as they were standing there on the plank to board the ship, "But who will take care of us?" Their mother thought about it for a moment and then said, "Oh, that's right. I better come." That's what made Claire a survivor. They were well off, but had long periods of absolutely no money, while they waited for the next month's allotment. One summer when Claire was 11, her mother left Claire and her brother while she traveled. The kids had a housekeeper to take care of them. Claire, the younger of the 2 kids, was put in charge of the money. Her intensity and drive came from trying to have control over a life that she really didn't have any control over. But Claire is not of the generation that blamed their problems on their parents. She is of the life is tough, get over it, and move on generation.
You know, if she plays a really good player and get killed, and she played as well as she can play, she's very happy. She likes to play these kind of players.
If I don't win and I'm playing someone who's, you know, my level or better, all right. You know, I did my best.
And on the other hand, even if she had a close match and she didn't play that well, then she's not quite as happy. She really gets some joy out of playing well and really performing to her best level.
I don't feel good if I feel that I have not played well, my own game well. Not because they made me not play it, but because I myself didn't do it.
But usually she shows up. You know, she's there.
She gets out there with the right attitude every single time she plays.
It's easy for her to be there because that's where she wants to be at that moment.
I like winning enough that I try to summon up all my forces to just sort of keep it going until I can get back onto the place where I can hit a winning shot.
And because her forehand can hurt you, people were hitting to her backhand all the time, and she didn't like to just play defense, so she had to come up with something to score some points. And the drop shot was the first way she learned to score points with her backhand.
It's not a graceful Roger Federer-like backhand. In fact, it's kind of a goofy looking, shot. Your task is not dealing with how do I get her drop shot. That's not the problem. The problem is how do I prevent her from hitting her drop shot? And so you've got to hit some shots that don't let her do that. Namely, really deep. That would be the, the first task, keep it very, very deep. Make her stand 6 or 8 feet behind the baseline, maybe even up high. Get her above her shoulder. It's hard to hit a drop shot from there. And she's looking for that chance to hit a drop shot every point, because that's her kill shot. And so on one level, her psyche is working. I'm working the point, I'm moving my opponent around, looking for that opportunity that, boom, I can throw that drop shot in and it's a done deal. So you need to prevent her from having that opportunity.
What I've learned from her in my case is when something is not working and the pace is kind of, your opponent's pace is overwhelming you, change their pace, make it slower. And that's exactly what Claire does all the time.
One of the reasons that I could play as well as I could play is that I take 1,000 lessons a week with Rocky.
That's too good.
I've been here in town for 22 years, and you know, definitely more than half of that I've been working with Claire. I would guess probably 13 or 14 years.
Rocky doesn't just hit balls to me and stand still. He runs all over. Nor does he hit a ball to where I am standing. You know, he makes me run all over. When I'm in a tough spot, I think, come on, Claire. You get a ball back against Rocky.
My highest ranking was number 100 one week. That was in 1982. And I won 2 ATP tournaments. I won the Portugal Open, and I won another ATP tournament in Brazil.
You got it.
And the US Open. Those are the only 2 Grand Slams that I played.
Oh, come on. If that's what she's accustomed to playing against me, then when she plays people in her age group, it's just going to be like a walk in the park.
A couple of years ago, I was watching Nadal play, and his uncle Tony was watching him and encouraging him, and you know, the expression on his face, and he was just, you know, it was just so good. And I said to Richard, oh, I wish I had an Uncle Tony. And he said, you've got Cousin Rocky.
You know, they say it's a sport of a lifetime, and you know what that really means, as people like Claire can attest to, is that you know you can play all your life.
And I've always felt Rocky's encouragement. Now, he doesn't come with me on my European tours, unfortunately, or to my national tournaments, but I know that he wants to know how I'm doing. I know that he's looking it up on the internet if he can to find out, you know, how I'm doing. And just knowing that makes me feel really good.
After taking a year off because of foot surgery, Claire Zoller came back to beat the number 5 in the world. How can we be exceptional like Claire when we're her age?
There's 3 parts of that equation. The first part is, do you have the physical skills? The hand-eye coordination, the quickness, the body hold-up, and you have to, you know, train. The second is you have to work on the shots. You have to have the shots. They have to be grooved. You have to hit a million balls, and you know, and all that stuff. And the third is you have to have the mental concentration, because without that concentration and that drive, the first 2 aren't going to do you any good, because there are other people out there who are trying to do the same thing.
First of all, it's not as difficult as you think, because particularly in women's senior tennis, a lot of women do not continue competing once they get from the 60s on up. The men's draws get larger, and as they get into their 60s and up, and the women's draws get smaller. So if you compete and you stay healthy, the field eliminates itself.
You know, I'm going towards senior tennis, what they call. It's working through the shot, not by running all over.
We're in senior tennis.
We are in senior tennis, I know.
We're not in super senior tennis, that's what it is.
That's it.
Are we just supposed to watch others reach their potential? Or are we to challenge ourselves and see just what is possible for us to achieve? How do you feel about this thing called getting older? How do you guys feel about it?
I don't think we have a choice.
I never mind having another birthday when I consider the alternative.
She really is a role model for growing old.
From what I can see, for people who are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, you keep going as long as you can, because when you stop, you have to, play golf or bridge or, just sit around and drink.
I see some upside to it.
What is that? Like what?
Well, you can speak your mind and not worry about how people interpret it.
I kind of look forward to it. I think you get more wise, and even in your tennis game, Claire has a very smart game, and I think that you start to learn that the older you get. So I think it's something to look forward to.
I think getting older gives you perspective just on what's important and what isn't. I find it easier to prioritize and let go of things that at one time would bother me a lot. So when your tennis game is off, oh well, tomorrow's another day.
As Claire told me once, actually, because I would get so frustrated with double faulting, and she would tell me, don't worry about that, just look at every ball as a gift. And since that time, I've never forgotten that, because it reminds me how much I do love going out there and just hitting a tennis ball.
Don't be afraid of it. I mean, it's coming to you. You get to choose. What are you going to do with it?
Having something to strive for gives our lives focus and a way to channel our energies, a gauge by which to measure our own development.
Beauty! Congratulations!